Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ready, Aim, Retire. I'm Rob Kirvan, your host. This is a show where we go through everything that can affect your retirement, whether that be Social Security planning, IRA, Roth IRA rollovers, income planning, and of course, legacy and your enhanced plan. And we hit everything in between. And as always, especially for you diehard listeners, I know there's a lot out there. I am here with Tony Shore. Tony, how are we doing today?
I am so good, Rob.
Okay, so
doing,
good.
Doing
Now, I
great.
saw Tony. Tony, where did we just see each other?
We saw each other at the big financial summit deep in the heart of Texas in Austin, and it was so much fun and a lot of information. I mean, it was like drinking from a fire hose because, 500 of the top advisors from around the country are there, financial minds, great financial and motivational speakers. So it gives you a chance to impart your wisdom, Rob, on the masses, as well as talk to other advisors to better help your clients, right? And I had fun. It was great seeing you in person, by the way.
It's always a great time. I participated in a roundtable where you're sharing kind of ideas and getting ideas and things and that that's always helpful. The speakers were fantastic. I did say to my wife Tony that that place, she's like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys going out? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And she feels there's a lot of time that we have. And that thing is regimented. Like there's barely time to go to the restroom and under those conditions. And the only time I was outside was when I came in and when I left. That's the only time I saw the outside of that place.
It was the exact same for me, and I think for most people.
Right.
I did not go outside once. Oh, I did actually get an Uber the first night between the workshops and the welcome reception for Summit.
Yeah.
We had there was a 2-hour window there. And I got an Uber and went to Buc-ee's because I'd never been to a Buc-ee's before. Have you heard of this place?
Oh, I've been to Buc-ee's. My daughter played a lot of golf in Texas. So how about that place though?
Oh, 100 gas pumps.
It's incredible.
And it was full. Guys out sweeping the parking lot, the cleanest, if you want to call it a gas station, but I mean, it's like half the size of maybe a Target,
right?
And they it's immaculate, the restroom, everything. And I had a brisket sandwich, a barbecue brisket sandwich. It was delicious. One of the best barbecue briskets I've ever had.
It's you can get anything in there from like a brisket or steak sandwich all the way to a cake. It's like you can almost like whatever you feel like eating. You walk into Buc-ee's. They're making it. It's not like you're pulling it off a shelf. Like they're making these things. Like that place. Like when I remember when my daughter first played her first tournament, probably in high school. She was down in Texas, and I remember pulling in because we needed gas. I had no idea what Buc-ee's was, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is weird. Look at all the pumps." And I'm thinking it's a Texas thing. I'm like, "Yeah, everything's bigger in Texas."
Yeah.
And the pumps, and then we went in, and we're like, and then that became a stop. Like whenever she'd play in Texas again, even when she's playing in college. We're like, all right, let's map out the closest Buc-ee's. Like even if I don't buy anything, I have to wander that store.
It is the craziest.
You go with anybody.
Oh yeah, you see it all over social media, and we live in the Midwest. There's none anywhere near here. I think it started in Texas, and I think the furthest north it goes is like maybe Tennessee, maybe.
They're building one in Wisconsin.
They are.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
When I drive up to Wisconsin, there's big signs everywhere saying Buc-ee's coming and however many miles from whatever interstate that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We'll have to make a trek into
I'll definitely be making a trek.
I've got to first before you go into Wisconsin, you want to get your shots. You want to make sure you have all your papers, the proper visas, and you don't want to catch anything. No. So
because you're gonna be eating just a massive amount of cheese curds, and you gotta make sure your system can handle it.
Yeah. Oh, Wisconsin. Yeah. We like to make fun. I've never seen more roadkill along an interstate ever than driving through Wisconsin, or fireworks stands.
Yeah, a lot of fireworks stands, cheese stands, a lot of the mousetrap and the likes.
A lot of cheese curds. Yeah, in Wisconsin.
I love me some cheese curds.
Well, who doesn't? Right. All right. So what are we talking about for a topic today? This is a big one. This is a good one. You've been getting a lot of calls on this one, right?
We're getting a ton of calls. So we're gonna go through the ins and outs of the new Social Security Fairness Act, Tony. And then what we're going to do is we're going to feather that into all the changes in Social Security this year, so everyone's aware of just the different the increases in COLA and the Medicare payments and things like that, just so we have a nice little start to the year, so we know what we're dealing with. But let's focus first on the Social Security Fairness Act. So this was signed into law on January 5th. And basically what it is, Tony, is so for years, I'm talking 40 years, 2 to 3 million people had their Social Security benefits reduced either through WEP, which is the windfall elimination provision, or GPO, which is the government pension offset. And what that means is if you got a job, let's say as a teacher, and you were in the state of Illinois, you're teaching, well, the teachers directly in their pension, they don't pay into Social Security. But a lot of them through their working career did pay into Social Security, and they may have had summer jobs. They may have had a job way before they ever became a teacher, and
or they worked during the summer at another job,
right? And you got the credits that way. So they had the 40 credits required to get Social Security, and then they would come into our office, and we do Social Security Maximization Reports, as you know, as part of our financial planning, and they would be shocked to think like they thought they were getting 1,500 from Social Security, but now they're getting like 400, they're like, why? And it's because of this provision that's been in place, like I said, for 40 years, that basically when designed, it was like, you can't double dip the government. That was the whole process behind it, or the thinking behind it, which in itself makes sense. It's like, wait, you're getting two. But then when you think, wait, I paid into this. Social Security, you earned that. Like you paid into, you got your 40 credits. So it's been
it's not an entitlement. You've paid in.
You've paid into it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not something that's just given to everybody. It's like you're given whatever that payment is based on how much you paid into it, and so for years, like I said, for 40 years, they've been held back on this, so it's been a rub. Like people in my office, it's a top. It's always a topic, especially when we're doing, a first financial plan for somebody. It's the biggest rub. They can't believe it. So now with this new legislation, that's been eliminated. So who does that affect? Teachers, Tony, government pensions like firefighters, police officers, postal workers, nurses, depending on what hospital you work for and things like that. So there's a lot of people. It's 2 to 3 million Americans affected directly, 750,000 plus that it receives spousal benefits from this. So there's a lot of happy people, on January 6th, a lot more on January 7th, which is my birthday, Tony. But January 6th was still,
I forgot to tell you happy birthday. We should have celebrated in Texas.
We should have.
I should have invited you to ride along to Buc-ee's.
I would have went, Tony. I would have went. Like
I've never been to a Buc-ee's, so I had to make it happen because I figured I'm never going to be closer.
I would have totally went. That.
Yeah.
So here's the question that we got. So we got a lot of phone calls and we got a lot of emails. Like, oh my, if you're in this position, you're pretty excited right now. You're like, okay, finally I'm going to get mine. So here's how it's going to work. So we are dealing with the government, folks. So we have to understand that. So what we know is this, is you will get retroactive payments from January of 2024. So whenever this settles out, so if it, I would anticipate, it just got signed on the 5th of January, Tony. Governments generally don't move that fast. So I would say by, maybe later the second quarter, maybe by the end of the third quarter, they have until December 31st, 2025 to complete this, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to get a lump sum deposit. If you, like most people are getting in, Social Security goes into their bank account every month, right? So you're going to get this lump sum deposit that's going to go in at one point this year. And then once that happens, you're going to see your normal monthly Social Security deposit increase by whatever they were holding back. But that, it could be an 18-month holdback on whatever those benefits are, right? So that could be, it could be $400 a month, $300 a month. Like who knows, depending on what your earnings are and things like that, right? But it could be a good chunk of change for some people out there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, that they're doing that. And again, like I said, that's, we're sitting here, I'm recording on January 23rd. So there's there's limited information out. Like I said, we sent a bulk email out to all our clients as soon as we had the information, so they would be aware of this. And some that that don't check their email, hopefully they're listening now, Tony, or other people out there. But if you're out there and you're in this position and you want to see how it's going to affect you, we can run a Social Security Maximization Report for you that we do as part of our when we're doing our financial planning for our wealth management clients. You can do that. You can call us. You can come in complimentary. Tony will do that for you to kind of get
Wow.
so you can see where you're at. Give us a call at 630-780-1099, or even just go to our website where we have tons of information, but you can book an appointment direct through there at apadvisorsgroup.com. So it's easy as give us a call or go to the website, get an appointment in here, because if you're in this 2 to 3 million people and want to get a kind of an idea of where you're at, we can give you that idea, so it provides you some information.
Basically, they're eliminating the windfall elimination.
Right.
Okay.
They're eliminating the elimination. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Right.
But it actually, for once, the government has done something and named something that is positive and is what it says it is. So the Social Security Fairness Act does sound like it's improving for a lot of people, their Social Security benefits, and making it more fair for them.
I would say it's more fair for them for sure. And everybody will be improved in some way, shape, or form. You got to understand, like somebody that taught for their whole career and had the 40 credits, but they were just minor, earnings, like a little summer gig here and there. They may not be affected as much as somebody that, worked out in the private sector for 15 years, and then decided to become a teacher, so
Sure.
so they may get, a bit of more of a spliff, but at the end of the day, it's a Fairness Act. It's shocking that it's been able to go on for as long as it has without literally paying the people because they paid into this. It's like, to me, it's wild. Like, I just don't understand it, but
right.
But
Well, the government can do
right.
what the government wants to do. The IRS will find a way, right?
100%. The next question you might ask, Tony, is, all right, well, what does everybody have to do? What do these 3 million people have to do to make sure they're on the list? Well, folks, you have to do absolutely nothing. If you're already receiving monthly benefits, ACH, like into your bank account, this will just happen, and as we get more information, we'll provide it for you. We may get, in the coming months, Tony, we may get timelines, like something more firm, and things like that. But currently, you don't have to do anything. Just know that you're probably going to get, a nice bump at one point this year, and it has to be completed by the end of the year. So congratulations to those of you who've kind of been, kind of pushed to the side for the last 3 years.
It makes me wish once again that I was a government worker, right?
Right. You get to double dip. Oh, we can't say that anymore. It's like that's not what they're doing. Right. They're paying into it. But anyways, so that's that information, Tony. Let's talk about the changes to Social Security in 2025. So every year there's always changes. There's different, things that they change inside of it. And I've highlighted 4 or 5 of them that I think probably affect most people. Like there's changes in there we're not going to get in the weeds on that affect the minute, sliver of the population. But again, if you're out there and listening, anything Social Security, we can help you with. So if you are in that sliver that I'm not covering, again, just call or go on the website, book an appointment. Doesn't cost you anything to get the information, So I'm all about that. Like Tony and I were at the conference. Doesn't cost us anything but time, but it's time well spent. We don't. I don't have to go to those. Tony doesn't have to go to those. And you go to those kinds of things to gain knowledge, to gain information that can help you directly, and then help people around you directly. So again, the information's there. It's up to you guys to to make the call. So
they asked me if I wanted to go this year to the summit, and I'm like, oh yes, I learn a lot there. It helps me understand what you're talking about on the show better, Rob, and listening to you guys talk about what you do to help your clients and all these changes. There's always IRS tax code changes.
Mm-hmm.
There's changes in the way certain insurance products work that can help or not help your clients,
Right.
depending on their situation. So I think this is great. And Social Security is one of the biggest topics that you get the most questions out. So about. So what are these other changes this year?
Okay, so the first one, we always get this, and I announced this. I believe we did a show back in the in the early fall, because this is when this number comes out. But just to reiterate it, we're gonna have a cost of living increase, Tony, of 2.5% this year. And I've had some groans for some clients going, "Oh, it's only 2.5," because we got the 8.7 a few years back. But we have to understand this number is tied to inflation. So it's great to get a big number, but that meant you're paying a lot more for your stuff. So
Right.
the design of it is cost of living increase based on the consumer price index in August. So the 2.5 is probably, I would say, for most people, a good sign that the inflation is kind of getting down to where we need it. The next one, here's the other one I get a lot of questions on: Medicare Part B. So everyone, when you're receiving Social Security, has to pay into the Medicare Part B, and last year that amount was, I wrote it down here, 174.70. So that has now increased per month per person. So if I'm married, we both are paying 174.70. So now that's increased to $185 per month. So you have to look at it and go, okay, I got a 2.5% increase, but I also got this increase on the other side, which is larger than 2.5%. But I did the math on it, and I figured out that the average person, net out that extra $10 you're paying for Medicare, you're still going to net between 40 and 50 extra dollars per month. If you're a high earner, maybe that's $100, or whatever. If you're low earner, maybe slightly less than that. But at the end of the day, it's going to, the design of it again is to help you combat the cost of living.
Yeah.
And we've done several shows on that.
Right. And I remember there are some years where, Social Security is closely linked to your Medicare premiums. And so that usually comes right out of your Social Security check.
Yeah.
And some years, the cost of living adjustment, the average person, the increase they saw a month because of it was completely wiped out by the government. Just
Many
raised
years, you're right.
Medicare prices a month, the premium and it was a wash.
Right.
So they kept getting the same checks, even at the amount, even though there was a COLA increase, they didn't see it. This year, at least, you're right. I mean, the average is almost $50, 10 of that going to the increase in Medicare monthly premiums for the average person.
Right.
And so they're netting about, like you say, 40 the average person. So that's actually really good.
Yeah, and that makes a good point, Tony. Is there's a lot of years, like I remember not that long ago either. It might be 8-10 years ago when the Medicare premium was $118.
Right.
And then it went up till it was in the 130s for a bit, the 144, and it just went boom. It
Boom.
went to 160, 168, 174. Like it just went, oh my gosh! Like we're taking these jumps where those jumps never used to happen. It'd be like minor, like a couple bucks or whatever. But you're right. In those years, especially, yeah, you might have been even a net loser in some of those years, depending on what your Social Security benefit was.
Oh, for sure, because there were 2 years in there where there was no cost of living
Right.
adjustment.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't get any more. They didn't increase it at all. And then there were a couple years where it was really, really low, a few years in there, but yet Medicare went from the 130s up to 174 pretty quick.
Yeah, it did. It did. Like
Once it hit about 130, whoosh,
yeah, it
right?
just went like it was just like every year. I'm like, oh my goodness. On that topic, Tony, the average, historical Social Security, like the cost of living increase, works out to about 1.9%. So, which is kind of in line with inflation, running around 2%, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of, and we peak and valley that, and hopefully this year we can get that down to that 2% target. But then all you Social Security people out there will be like, when you get your COLA next year at 1.8, you'll be like, oh my gosh, But so it's directly in line. So we have to understand that's kind of the whole purpose behind it.
Sure. Although it's not necessarily fair, the CPI that cost of living increases based on for Social Security doesn't reflect actual inflation
No, no,
because of things like groceries and healthcare costs, right?
right. They X out those sometimes, depending on the report. They'll X out energy. Well, I
Those
need
are
gas
3 things we all
to
have
get
to.
food to stay healthy. Like, it's
I
like,
mean, especially seniors on a limited budget. What do you need? You need food, healthcare, and energy. Those are
right.
your 3 main costs, and those aren't included a lot of times in
No,
their calculations. So
right.
that's and yeah, don't get me started.
And
Uh,
even when they come up with the inflation numbers, Tony, like when you see the inflation numbers, I know we're going down like a sidetrack on this,
yeah,
but like this is interesting. So when you see the inflation numbers, it's wild. They don't always all X out. It's just like they'll pick this one. They'll take housing. Like housing, housing was really expensive. You know what? We're going to X out X housing where inflation is only 3.8. It's like, well, but that's another big one. That's part of like people's
yeah.
lives.
My healthcare insurance premiums went up 20%.
Right.
One of the years that they said the cost of living adjustment or CPI was about 1.2.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you obviously didn't include that. Or the price, a box of cereal went up $2 a box. It's like it went up 200% or over 100%.
Yeah,
And they said, no, inflation's down to, 1% that year. It's like,
I know.
what are you actually talking
Even
about?
now, like, so what happens with inflation is, when they do it year over year, obviously, right? So
Right.
all that stuff is already baked. Like a bag of potato chips that used to be like $1.50, the new potato chip is $4, and that's like, if there's like a special where they're doing like, 3 for 10 or something, like Natalie's coming home with it. There's bag. Just put them in the freezer. Like we become like I guess we are kind of like our parents at this age, but like we become like that. Like I remember growing up, my mother, we didn't have a lot of money. If she got chips on discount, like we didn't know about it as kids, and then we had this like freezer in the garage, and it would be like a special treat. It'd be like a Friday night. We got a movie. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna get a bag of chips from the garage, and she come up with this bag of chips. And your first handful, you eat them, and they'd be frozen, like ice cold. You'd be eating like some.
I've never heard of anyone actually
Oh,
freezing
oh,
chips. I
yeah.
don't know if that's just a Canadian thing.
I don't know either. We froze everything. We
Well,
could not afford that thing to go spoil.
no.
She may have froze apples. I don't even know.
Well, I'll tell you what, my parents were the same way, and we lived, out on the farm, grew up on a farm, but in our basement, 2 huge, what they call, chest-style
I know it's
freezers,
chest freezers. Of course
giant.
they do. Yeah.
They had 2 side by side, and they
Right.
were full of everything.
The
Like,
only people that have those, Tony, is farmers and mafia. Those are the only 2 people that have those freezers. Like Natalie's parents, yeah, they've had a couple chest
yeah,
freezers down there because I've
yeah.
been there around there for
I
4
gotta
years.
remind ourselves we are in the Chicagoland
Yeah.
area,
Yep.
so we
So
gotta bring up
I'm
the.
familiar with that side of it too, the farmer side, the other side. But my goodness,
That's great.
kind of went sideways on that, but important
Yeah.
stuff. I think you have to understand inflation. The last one I want to hit on the Social Security front, Tony, is the way you get Social Security, the way your benefit grows, and we've done shows on this, and I'm only touching on this because this is I think an important change, is you get credits based on earnings. So currently or last year, you get 4 credits, so you need 40 credits to qualify for Social Security. So basically 10 years, call it 10 years. And last year, each credit you had to earn $1,730. So if you earned $1,730, you got 1 credit towards the bank. If you earn more, great, but you have to at least have that. That's been increased to 1810. So minor, you have to earn, an extra $80 a quarter or whatever. So, minor change, but a change nonetheless, especially for people out there that are doing like part-time work. They're only working a few hours,
Yeah.
on the side, maybe they're raising a family or doing whatever. So, so that's another big change. So, excuse me, I would say to people, heed these changes, especially the Fairness Act. And if you're in that group, I would say, Tony, to give us a call. I would say, call us. Let us run a new Social Security maximization for us. Then you can see where you stand now. And our software can do that. That's it's their bedrock of people's retirement foundation. A lot of people, it can be in between 70 and 90% of their retirement income. So it's a big, big number, So give us a call at 630-780-1099. We'll help you out with that. Or just go to our website, go to apadvisorsgroup.com. Not only can you book an appointment direct through there, but there's tons of information on there. And Social Security is definitely a hot topic on there that hopefully you can get some help with too.
I think that's great, Rob. And to reiterate your point, it doesn't matter if Social Security is going to be 5 or 10% of your retirement income or 90%. Uh, Whether you care that much about it, you say, "Oh, I've got millions saved." You still should have that Social Security Maximization Report run, and it is still going to be the foundation of your retirement income plan because it's a known factor. And no matter how much or how little money you have, you're going to want to maximize it. And
Sure.
that report you run does over 20,000 calculations, and you're offering that no charge, no obligation. Just set up a consultation. Again, the only thing it'll cost you is your time. I think that's fantastic, Rob.
Yep.
Give that phone number and web address one more time.
Let's do it. 630-780-1099. Or like I said, hit our website. There's lots of great information, apadvisorsgroup.com, and you can book direct through there too.
All right. Great show today, Rob. A lot of great information about Social Security and Social Security maximization. All the changes. All right. That does it for today's episode of Ready, Aim, Retire with our host, Rob Kirvan.